Hi folks, we're back again today with another video. And today we are asking the question, can AI repair a Game Boy? And straight off the bat, I'm not about to pull out some kind of AI robot that's going to magically fly in and repair this Game Boy. Sorry. What we are going to be looking at today is, could somebody who has never picked up a Game Boy before use a AI chatbot such as ChatGPT, which is what we're going to be using today? Could they pick one up and use ChatGPT to repair one? Could they ask for instructions? Would those instructions be accurate and fully comprehensive? Would they tell us everything we need to know? And could we use all that to bring this Game Boy, which is in a bit of a state of disrepair, back to its former glory? So that's essentially what we are going to be looking at today. So this Game Boy, I picked it up off eBay a week or so ago. Spares and repairs very loosely sort of describes the Game Boy. The battery contacts are a bit corroded, but nothing too bad. But the main culprit is the fact that there are missing lines on the screen. One thing we're not going to be looking at today is the discoloration. We're not going to be retro brightening it or anything like that. We're just going to be trying to get it back up to its main, just running properly so it actually works. So with that in mind, let's hop on to ChatGPT and have a little look at what it's all about and the steps that we're going to have to follow if we want to get this back up and running. So I'm a firm believer that if you put rubbish in, you're going to get rubbish out. So I've tried to be as informative with the information that I'm putting into ChatGPT to ensure that I get a good set of results out of it. I'm by no means an AI expert. I have picked up a few little bits along the way, little bits of tips and tricks to ensure that you get good results out of it. So the first thing I've said to it is, imagine you're repairing a Nintendo Gameboy DMG-001 for the very first time, making sure I get in there the fact that it's the DMG model. It's not just, if you just type in Game Boy, straight away it could get confused between a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Advance. So I've been very explicit in what I've asked. I've told it what needs to be repaired: the cleaning of the battery contacts and the fixing of the missing lines on the display. Describe the steps that I need to take to disassemble the Game Boy fully, including removing the battery contacts. Again, making sure that I'm leaving no stone unturned. Advise every piece of equipment that I will need to complete the disassembly and removal of the contacts. Again, just reaffirming that I need to be told what tools I will need. Suggest an appropriate non-destructive fluid for cleaning the contacts. Describe the steps that I will need to take to remove the screen, and then what tools I will need to restore the lines on the screen to show a complete display. I need you to tell me the exact tools that I will need. I have never attempted this before and need every step explaining in intricate detail. Now, obviously, fans of the channel will know that last bit's a bit of a porcupine, but again, I'm just trying to get across to ChatGPT. I need it to tell me every single step. And with that in mind, we're going to see if a complete novice could follow this guide from start to finish, following every single step. Now, I've decided I'm going to give it a chance, because it might miss a few bits out. So I'm going to go ahead and give the chatbot 5 lives, and I'm going to do this with a good old heart meter somewhere up here, somewhere across the top of the screen. So every time I have to intervene to add my own knowledge to this, because the chatbot has missed something out, I'm going to take a life off, and we'll see how successful it is. So with that in mind, let's have a little look at the tools that it suggests. So it's telling us that we need a tri-wing screwdriver for removing those original Nintendo screws. Well, I'm going to be using my electric screwdriver, but yep, check. We've got a Phillips screwdriver for internal screws. Check. A plastic spudger or a pry tool. Well, I'm going to leave that one out. I'm not going to take a life off. I don't think we need that. Okay, I'm just going to move on from that. As with the tweezers, I don't think we'll need the tweezers. I'm quite confident that I can do it without tweezers. Magnetic parts tray or small container. Yep, okay, well, we'll have one of those because I've got one of those handy. So we'll take that and that'll keep everything safe. And an ESD strap to keep from static discharge. Again, I've not got one of those. We're not going to use one of those today. For cleaning the battery contacts, we're going to need some white vinegar or isopropyl alcohol. Well, I've got some IPA just there, so that's all good. There we go. The white vinegar, right, I did have some white vinegar, but sadly we used it all up. I've cracked out the Sarsens, but I don't think we'll need it, but I'll pop it there anyway. Other brands of vinegar are available. Baking soda paste, optional to neutralise the vinegar if used. We're not going to be using that. I've realised I've skipped past the cotton swab, so we've got some of those for cleaning. And a microfiber cloth for drying and wiping. Yeah, we're all good on that one. And then to fix the missing lines, we're going to need a soldering iron with a fine tip. Check. Capped on heat resistant tape to hold the screen ribbon in place whilst heating. Not quite sure about that one. Maybe we'll come back to that in a little while. A flathead precision screwdriver for minor adjustments. Well, if we need it. We've got a couple of extra heads there with the screwdriver kit. Cleaning alcohol, yep, so we've already touched on the IPA, and a multimeter, optional but helpful to test connections. I'm going to leave that one in the bag for now, because I don't think we're going to need a multimeter, but we'll see. So with all that in mind, let's have a little look, shall we? Like I say, I've going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I've not been through these steps yet. I looked as far as the equipment list, so I could get all the equipment that it suggested ready, but I've not been into this step-by-step guide. So let's have a look. Disassembling the DMG-001. Okay, so slide the battery cover off. Semantics. Do we really slide the battery cover off? I don't know. I'm not going to take a life off, but I won't exactly call it a slide. Take out the 4 AA batteries. Okay, well, we're not going to be doing that because there's no batteries in there. And we've already talked about the contacts having some corrosion and rust on, but nothing there to take points off so far. Using your tri-wing screwdriver, remove the 6 screws on the back, 4 near the corners and 2 in the battery compartment. All right, well, let's get on with it. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, maybe some tweezers would have been handy. Okay, I'm sure the other ones will drop out in a second. Carefully lift the back shell. Be cautious, it's connected to the front half by a ribbon cable. Okay, yep, you're right. That one just needs to come out a little bit more. Being mugged off by a Game Boy this morning. There we go. All out. Okay, so, yep, as it says, we are connected by a ribbon cable. Disconnect the ribbon cable. This is the cable connecting the motherboard to the screen board. Gently pull it out of its socket or lift the latch if it's a ZIF connector. Well, Game Boy DMGs don't have ZIF connectors on the ribbon. However, it does say that it says gently pull it out of its socket. So it, again, can't take a laugh off for that one because it does tell us. Separate the two halves completely. Okay. Right, use your Phillips screwdriver to remove the 3 to 4, well, it should be 4, screws holding the main motherboard into the front shell. All right, okay. 3 to 4 screws holding the main motherboard to the front shell. Well, for my money, the main motherboard is on the back shell. So I think we're going to lose a life. Worry not. We can figure out that it's on the back shell. I think it's really interesting though that these chatbots that just are sort of aggregating data from lots of sources. And again, I don't pretend to know how it works. I've got, you know, a very basic understanding of the fact that it's a computer somewhere and it's analysed lots of things and then it's given us stuff out. But it is magnificent and I think it's only going to get stronger. Whatever your views on it are, I think it's only going to get stronger. Right. Carefully lift the motherboard out. Now you're ready to remove the battery contacts and inspect the screen. Okay, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt that it's saying that they're two separate things. Cleaning the battery contacts. Remove the contacts. Okay. Look inside the battery compartment. Yep. Using your tweezers, gently bend or slide out the metal contacts from the plastic housing. They may be clipped in or soldered. Note how they are mounted. Right, I'm not going to use tweezers. I'm going to just use one of the heads. And again, if you are watching this for the first time and you are interested in how to repair these battery contacts, essentially what you have to do is the little sort of clips that hold these in place, if you just push them in and push them down at the same time, you'll feel them getting sort of freed up and then they'll just drop out. Once you've done them a couple of times, it's quite easy. The first time it's a little bit tough to sort of do that push in and push down motion, but in the end you do get there, he says. Sometimes you might find that actually a slightly larger tip will do the job, just so you can cover a little bit more surface area. There we go. Absolute. They were a bit tricky, but nevertheless, we managed to get there in the end. And as we can see, there's a little bit of corrosion on there, but nothing that we can't deal with. So, wipe the contact with a damp cloth or alcohol. Oh, hang on a second now. Dip a cotton swab or toothbrush in white vinegar or isopropyl alcohol. Scrub the parts for heavy corrosion. Okay, I think what we're going to do, aside from me getting IPA everywhere, is we're just going to pop them in and I might just let them soak just for a couple of minutes. I wouldn't call it by any means heavy corrosion, but I'm just going to let them soak just for a couple of minutes. And we'll come back to that one. So I'm doing it slightly out of order, but well, we'll come back to it. Okay, let's have a little look. So removing the screen. The LCD screen is mounted on a small board on the front shell. Yeah, okay. You may need to carefully pry the screen assembly off using a plastic spudger. Right. So unless I've missed something, which I don't think I have, it doesn't say anything about removing the screws to this board. So let's have a life knocked off. We've had to intervene because without that we'd just be pulling pulling the screen off, and I've not swapped my tip. Oh, have I have. It was just in very firmly. Right, let's get these out. Although I'm just looking at some of these. No, I thought that somebody might have been here before, but I don't think they have. Okay, right, so we need our soldering iron. So just while that is getting warmed up, let's just pry the screen out gently. And again, if you are watching this and you're thinking about disassembling one for the first time, you just need to be gentle with this. There'll be a little bit of glue, perhaps just holding it down inside, but just depending on the the condition of that glue, it may have dissolved completely. Just lift him out gently. If you're struggling to get it out, yeah, just double check that you've got all the screws removed. It shouldn't be a lot of force to get this board out, okay? So if you're really struggling, double check that you've not made an error. And inside we've got the lovely, what are these called? These rubber connection things. Starting to lose my presence of mind. As we can see, that is... So you've got this lens at the front, okay, which sits... There we go. Let's just let the buttons fall out, shall we? We'll come back to those in a minute. This lens that sits on the front, and obviously being, close to 40 years old, again, the glue will have dissolved quite comprehensively. So I think what we're going to go ahead and do actually is just pop that off. It looks like somebody's had a go at sticking something down. If you really, really don't want to buy a new one of these, you can use double-sided sticky tape to stick it back down. Don't use glue. Check out my glue is bad video if you'd like to see why. The glue will just rot and corrode through the colouring here, and it will just look awful. You can pick up plastic replacements, these for about £1.50, £1.50 on like AliExpress and other sort of vendors like that. Z Labs sell some really nice glass ones, depending on how much you want to spend. And you can just go ahead and pop them back on, and they look really nice. That's something that I'm going to look at another time, I think. I didn't ask ChatGPT to tell me how to put one of those back on, so I don't think it's fair expecting it to tell me. So, with all that in mind, we're going to look at repairing this screen. Actually, I do need another tool. I didn't tell... This is a tricky one because we need to see the screen whilst we're using it. And in order to do that, we need to have power. But in order to do that, we need to have cleaned the battery contacts. So actually, let's just pause. Let's rewind. Let's get these battery contacts cleaned. We can get them back in, and then we can look at getting some power to the Game Boy. So what do I need? Let's get something just to pop down here, just to get these contacts out and cleaned up. Let's have a little look. So they've been soaking in the IPA for a little while now. I mean, for my money, IPA doesn't really, it will clean, but it won't sort of clean up corrosion. You need something a bit more abrasive, something that will dissolve it, something like vinegar. In for a penny. So, slight technical mishap in the fact that at some point between me saying, let's clean the battery contacts up and let's get them back in the Game Boy, and a short while after that, realised that the camera had, for whatever reason, stopped recording. Luckily, it didn't miss out on too much, but while it had stopped recording, what I went ahead and did was put the contacts back in. Well, I took them out and gave them a quick clean, and popped them back in, and screwed the motherboard and the soundboard all back in. So not too many missteps, and nothing really that the chatbot didn't tell us to do. However, looking at it, it doesn't tell us that we need to reassemble this until after we've repaired the missing lines. But as I've said, we need to be able to see what's on the screen. So it's a bit of a grey area there. I'm not sure whether I'm going to take a life off. I'm not sure whether I'm going to... I think I am, because we can't really move forward until we've done that. So I'm going to take a life off. Ding. But we'll keep going. We'll keep powering forward, and we'll see if we can get to the end of this with some hearts remaining. So plug your soldering iron in and set it to 300. Well, we've got the soldering iron warmed up just at the side of us. Clean the tip. Yep, we're all good with that. My tip's cleaned. And locate the ribbons on the top side of the LCD, on the side or the top of the LCD. Well, he's kind of on the bottom. And what it also doesn't tell us to do is remove this black cover. Now, obviously, if you're doing this blindly, you're not going to know to remove that. You're going to end up in a proper world of pain. So, ding, we're definitely taking a life off for that one. So we'll take it off because we don't want to end up in a black sticky mess. And again, if you're watching this, you just want to get yourself a very sort of flat screwdriver and just gently peel it off, and it should come off. If you're left with some sort of sticky residue, okay, you're going to want to clean that up with a bit of IPA on a swab. But yeah, otherwise you need to be getting that glue off, because again, you're just going to end up with a hot sticky mess. Looking down the instructions, reconnect the board and turn the Game Boy on to see if the lines return. Once we've done some of the hot soldering in a second. It's in the wrong order, but it's there, and I'm feeling a little bit generous. So I think I'm going to call that one a green mushroom, and I think we're going to have a life back, because, you know, it does say reconnect it. It's not wrong. It's just slightly out of order. So it's always learning, isn't it? So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt there. So what we're going to do now then is we're going to be using this soldering iron, the hot soldering iron, and we're going to be rubbing it on the ribbon cable very slowly, very gently, okay, only for a couple of seconds at a time. Patience, patience, patience here, guys. Once you've had it down for a couple of seconds, I put my finger on it just to hold it in place while it sets, while it cools down. It is hot, okay, it's not too hot that it will blister you, but you do need to be mindful, obviously if you're sensitive, then you know, you just need to be really careful. So we're just going to keep revisiting. We're going to keep bringing back, and like I say, each of these is different. I've had some where I've just barely held the iron on for a second or two, and it's, you know, it's come full. And there's been some where I've been going at it for, you know, 10, 20 minutes or more, and some of them just never fully come back. Some of them have just completely gone off and don't come back. So patience, don't rush it, because they're very easy to completely ruin. And what I do sometimes is, again, just apply a bit of pressure with the finger, try not to push down too hard with the iron. Okay, so as we can see, with a little bit of time, a little bit of care, we can get the whole screen back up. And like I say, it may be that you never manage to get it done completely. And obviously there are different options available if that is the case. Looking at buying a salvaged original screen or adding in the IPS displays. But we've been lucky with this one today and we've got it back. So let's hop back onto the chat bot and let's see the final steps. Reassemble the Game Boy in reverse order, reinstall the screen and secure the motherboard, and screw everything back together. So I guess we need to do that. Am I going to take a point off for not telling us to put these things back in? I don't think I am. I think I'm going to be quite generous. I think that the steps that it's given us you know, I think it's been comprehensive. It's been very, I'm trying to think of some other synonyms. It's been very thorough, hasn't it, in what it's told us to do. As thorough as you can be in a visual, in a text guide. I think with more visual aids, which in time may come. Obviously, we know that ChatGPT can create some images, and that's only going to get better as time goes on. There are other, obviously, more dedicated AI bots for creating imagery, but it will create some images. Perhaps in time, who knows, it will come up with a way of making illustrations to go along with the guide. Who knows? But for now, I guess this is what we've got. So we'll do one final check. Now we've put it all back together, which I'm sure will result in absolute chaos. But we can see that we're all good. I'm probably going to go ahead off camera and give this a nice clean, using a bit more IPA, getting into those nooks and crannies. I might even throw it in the dishwasher, and I want to pop a new lens on it as well. But back to our original question: can you use AI chatbot to repair, or at least guide you in repairing a Nintendo Game Boy? Well, yes, you can. Yes, you can, and we've shown it with some slight interventions from somebody who knows what they're doing. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope, if you were looking on how to, repair a Game Boy, then you found something useful. I've got all the repair videos on the site, lots of stuff based around Game Boys, because I think they're absolutely fascinating and I love bringing them back to life. If you've enjoyed this, consider giving us a like, drop us a comment, perhaps even subscribe. I don't feel under any pressure to do so. Obviously, it helps us out loads. Ultimately, though, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Browse some of our other videos if you wish, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope, if you were looking on how to, repair a Game Boy, then you found something useful. I've got all the repair videos on the site, lots of stuff based around Game Boys, because I think they're absolutely fascinating and I love bringing them back to life. If you've enjoyed this, consider giving us a like, drop us a comment, perhaps even subscribe. I don't feel under any pressure to do so. Obviously, it helps us out loads. Ultimately, though, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Browse some of our other videos if you wish, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.